Good evening, everyone. I'll still be staying close to the microphone. We are about to begin. Could you please take your seats? Well, good evening, everyone. Welcome to this event on a very grey November evening. Really appreciated the effort you have made to come, and we could have been doing something else on a Friday evening. But before we actually begin, we've had a very sad week. Two very senior and long-serving councillors passed away. Councillor Martin Ellengorn and Councillor Jeffrey Samuel. We're going to take a minute's silence just to pay our respects to two very devoted councillors from now. Thank you. Thank you very much. Welcome to the community conversation in Whitton. But before we actually start, there are a few housekeeping rules. Can I first ask everyone to switch off their mobile phones? That includes me. The fire exits are behind, just in case there is an emergency. So just right over there are emergency exits. And please remain quiet when someone is asking a question. And when you are asking a question, please wait for the mic to be given to you before you start speaking. And ensure you are holding the mic like an ice cream to your mouth and not on your lap. You know what happens if we keep ice cream on our laps, don't we? So make sure you hold it to your mouth. The event is also being live streamed, but only the panel is going to be seen. Okay. My name is Ravi Arora. I'm the Director of Multicultural Richmond, and I am your independent chair tonight. My role is to field your questions and ensure the event kept on time. So if we're late, it's my fault. The Community Conversation in Whitton is the Council's community engagement programme for Richmond Borough. One aspect of the programme is a series of events hosted by local ward councillors. The meetings are used to discuss local issues, requests, concerns, which will be followed up by ward councillors liaising with council officers. But just before we actually begin, I would like just to say why we are independent. Firstly, we are a voluntary organisation and we are not aligned to any political party, faith or religion. Our focus is on bringing people together from all backgrounds, cultures and races to create an inclusive and integrated community in Richmond Borough and the surrounding areas. We run support groups across the borough, support refugees and asylum seekers, teach people English and other skills, and run events to change how people think about race. If you want to know more about us, do check out our website, www.multiculturalrichmond.org.uk, or to find out more, come and talk to me after the event. I'll be around for a little while. But for now, I would like to introduce you to our ward councillors. From Heathfield, Councillor John Coombs, Leslie Polash, and Councillor Michael Wilson. From Whitton, we have Councillor Joe Humphreys, Rob O'Carroll, and Calder Sarah. And from West Twickenham, we have Councillor Pierce Alan Durant, and Councillor Laura O'Brien. She's not here. Oh, she's not here. Thank you. We are now going to review some of the councillors' achievements in their wards. And we are going to begin with Councillor Couldner for the Whitton ward.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you. I'll start by just giving a little bit of an explanation. Our unique town of Whitton, for council purposes, is split into two wards, Heathfield and Whitton. Heathfield being the side of Whitton, everything this side of the railway line, Whitton being everything which is on the borders with Hounslow and Isleworth. The 6 councillors that you see in front of you, we work very hard together. We're a great team. We're regularly communicating and doing the best that we can. So I'm going to start off by talking a little bit about some of the successes that we have achieved together across the 2 wards. After that, I'll speak a little bit about what we in Whitton, that's Rob, Joe and I, have achieved. And then after that, a little bit also about what we're working on, which is coming up in terms of achievements that we'll be able to publicise as time goes by. So our most recent success has been in what we've achieved in saving Whitton ticket offices from closure. South Western Railways had proposals to reduce the number of hours that the ticket stations would be open from 90 hours down to just 20 hours a week. And that would have meant no staffing on a Friday or a Saturday. And that also means when we had rugby, we would have had virtually no help from the ticket officers themselves. With our hard work, we contributed towards the government making a U-turn, where on the 1st of November, Mark Harper, the Transport Secretary, asked the train operators to withdraw the proposals withdraw the proposals for the ticket office closures. So we're very proud of that achievement. The second one is to do with Whitton's work in the White Ribbon achievements. So we have tried very hard to make Whitton even safer for women and girls. We organised together, both wards organised a high-profile event where we involved local schools, shops and businesses, including the MP, the leader of our council and the mayor. And you may well have attended that event as well. And the third bit is the work that we've done collectively in our regular monthly ward surgeries. So it's the last Saturday of every month, and we've consistently held them at Whitton Library month after month, and we've helped resolve issues for so many of our residents, stayed in touch with them and been there for them throughout. So that's what we've done collectively, Heathfield and Whitton, and very quickly just telling you about what Rob, Joe and I have also achieved. There was initially quite an issue of speeding on Nelson Road at the junction with Whitton, or the junction with Hospital Bridge Road. And one of the things that we did is implemented a community road watch scheme in conjunction with the police, where we've been clocking people from where they've been caught speeding. And to date, 38 speeders have been sent notices which could lead to them getting points on their licence. So that really has helped in bringing down the numbers of people speeding. Second achievement is Stevenson Road Bridge, which is the bridge that leads to the Feltham Triangle estate, where we have hundreds of residents living. We have resurfaced, we have arranged to have that bridge resurfaced, which has meant that we've made that bridge far safer for the residents with the onset of winter. And the third one we want to also talk about is the work that we've been doing with the Safer Neighbourhood teams in Whitton. We've reopened Murray Park Hall, the pavilions, that the police can use that as a base to help the local community. We work very closely with the police liaison group as well to try and understand the issues that our residents are facing and do whatever we can to find ways to prevent any future issues. And then lastly, just very quickly about the issues coming, the things that we're working on at the moment that are coming up. So we're very proud of our Whitton High Street. We've been working with the Whitton Business Association, and one of the things is to improve the parking situation there in order to improve the traffic flow, enabling more people, encouraging more people to shop locally. The second thing I'd like to also say is, which is coming up, is a project that we're working with currently with Tesco, Sainsbury's, Superdrug, Lidl and Iceland, and along with the police and the security wardens that we're looking to introduce to make Whitton High Street even safer. And the last thing I'd like to also just highlight that's coming up as well is about the improvements that we're working on for the recycling services at the Nelson Road or Whitton Library car park. I can also announce that we will also be introducing a mega skip very shortly, which will allow residents to dispose of items, bulky items, safely and help keep Whitton clean. So I'd just like to end by saying that that's a very quick summary of what we've achieved and what we're working on. You can rely on us to continue to care for Whitton, to stay engaged with our local community and continue to do the best that we can. Thank you.
Thank you. Can I now introduce Councillor John Coombs, who will talk about his wins in the Heathfield.
Okay, thank you very much, and thank you, Cordo, for explaining what the six of us managed to do together. I'll just talk about that part of Whitton which we call Heathfield Ward. In the year 2023-24, the roads that we have resurfaced in Heathfield have been Gosling Road, Millfield Road and Mill Farm Crescent. The footpaths that we've maintained have been Rycroft Avenue, Bryanston Avenue, Springfield Road and Crane Park Road. Now, some of you will know that there's a slip road joining Nelson Road and the Hanworth Road where the traffic lights are. And there was a lot of rat running going through that slip road, a number of accidents over the years there. And what we've done is put in a barrier to stop the rat runners using that slip road. That's gone in on a 6-month emergency measure. We've already had one of the mega skips. We had that during the Big Green Week that the council was running, and that was held at Edgar Road, and a lot of people were taking their bulky stuff and putting it in that skip. When it comes to parks, on Hounslow Heath Park, we have put in an adult fitness equipment. This has been tested by my colleague, Michael, to make sure it works very well. It's quite interesting seeing him doing the swinging one, which was something that Leslie and I were thinking it's not really for us, but Michael has proved that that particular equipment works well. On Heathfield Rec, we have continued to work with the Friends of Heathfield Rec because of the Jubilee Meadow, which is this extra extension that we have gained there as part of the Turing House School planning application. And we've worked with Hounslow Council, who own the cemetery there, to redo the fence. When they did that, we then asked them to put in hedgehog holes, which we've eventually done. So that was working with the Friends of Heathfield Rec, which we're very happy to continue to work with. On engagement exercises, we did an engagement exercise on Hospital Bridge Road, which is one of the roads in the borough where speeds are still exceeding about 27 miles an hour. We've proposed, a number of proposals were put. That went out to public engagement. That is finished, and we're now waiting for the traffic engineers to come back to us to tell us what the final scheme will be there. We're currently engaged with residents about the Wickham estate. This is the estate off the Hospital Ridge Road where Heathfield Schools Partnership is based, And we're looking at introducing a school street there to stop residents driving into where the school is to drop off their parents. So that's being done at the moment. The final thing that we are engaging with is on the Powdermill Lane and Hanworth Road shopping parade. We persuaded the powers that be to increase the amount of money that they're willing to invest there from about £250,000 to just under £500,000. And we're just engaging at the moment to see whether the schemes that have been put forward meet what residents would like to see in that area. So we're awaiting the results of those last two engagement exercises to see what people think. So that's what has been happening with Heathfield Board this last year.
Thank you, John. And now we go to Laura O'Brien for the West Twickenham.
Thank you very much. Good evening, everyone. So since the last community conversation, there's been lots happening in the ward, and we'd like to highlight a few of the broader things we've been working on locally. As you may know, Narrow Gardens has seen considerable investment in the new amazing cafe, the upgraded tennis and basketball courts, and also several new gorgeous trees have been planted, and with the support of local residents, most of these are growing really well. We regularly have police liaison group meetings with some familiar faces in the crowd here, where we raise issues of concern. There has been some antisocial behaviour around Mill Road Green Space, which the local Safer Neighbourhood team seem to have gotten under control, which is brilliant. If you've got any concerns about policing on your road, please do come along and raise them. Rat running by drivers trying to avoid the A316 or the Staines Road is a common problem across our ward, and we've been working with the police to carry out enforcement action and through community road watch scheme to highlight the problem. We've asked for more effective schemes to be considered as well. The Community Ambassador Programme, which focuses on building better relationships between tenants and their social housing landlords, is gaining momentum across the borough, and we are trying to encourage participation in Glebe Gardens and Leeson Estates. You've heard mention the Main Skip, which is making its way across the borough, and we expect to have one in West Twickenham early in the new year, allowing residents to get rid of the larger items without the need to go to Townmead. Bike hangers have proven to be popular for residents who've got less space in their homes, and there have been 41 requests for additional space in the ward, and we're considering possible sites for those. There's been lots and lots of interest in the review of the guidelines for vehicle crossovers, and we've been working really hard with the Transport and Environment Committees to make them fairer while enhancing the environment as well. Localised flooding has occurred in 2 areas of the ward, and we have pushed for action. It's important to ensure the drains and the gullies are kept clear, and the cleaning regime has now been increased, though some drains still seem to get blocked quite quickly. If you see one on your street, please do report it so we can help. And now I think Piers has got some good news about Twickenham Riverside.
Yeah, just quickly, Cumberland mentioned obviously things that are common between Whitton and Heathfield, and of course residents in West Twickenham also look towards Twickenham as a town centre. And just to reiterate, the news has come this week about Twickenham Riverside, where we're one step closer to actually developing that, with the decision that actually we do have the power to acquire Diamond Jubilee Gardens, which was stopping us moving ahead with that. So we heard on Thursday this week that the Planning Inspectorate has approved the use of these powers to acquire land and Jubilee Gardens, and that means that we can start going ahead with the development of Twickenham Riverside. It's already got a planning permission, but we're really keen to go ahead with that. And obviously we hope with the willingness of all those, including those perhaps have been posed up to now. So you can read more about the scheme on the Twickenham Riverside Developments page on the council and so on. I'm sure there'll be some more information about how to do it. But we're really pleased and so we've had a positive decision from the Planning Inspectorate, and that's hot news. I hope we can all see that's a very important thing, not just for Twickenham, but for this part of the borough.
Thank you very much, Rita. And now we come to the main part of it, and these are our themes. Theme 1 is Future of High Streets and Local Parade, to include businesses, public transport, parking, accessibility and uplift. Speeding and rat running, including the Staines Road 20 mile per hour consultation. 3. Vehicle crossovers, West Twickenham. And 4. Waste recycling and street cleanliness. And now I'm going to choose one of the councillors who would like to. Does anyone to volunteer to begin the first one, or shall I choose one?
Yeah, I'm fine to go. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Which topic?
The first one, Future High Streets and Local Parades.
Yeah. So
you want to set the scene before we take it to the audience?
no, I'm happy for any questions to come about.
So you want to...
regarding high streets?
Yeah, do you want to say something about it?
Well, yeah, I'll start by saying that we take very, very big pride in how successful Whitton High Street itself is. We're pleased to say it's the one high street that has the lowest vacancy rates across the whole of Richmond. And we've been working with the Civic Pride Fund to improve shop fronts on Whitton High Street as well. But no doubt there are likely to be some questions about that as well. We're working also very closely with the Whitton Business Association, or Love Whitton as they are known, in order to keep engaged with what's happening in Whitton Town and what the businesses, shop owners are really looking for. I know I certainly have got very, very good relationships with the local shop owners who I visit regularly. And we're working on a number of different projects as well to try and improve Whitton High Street even further, including dealing with some of the parking and the traffic flow issues. But I'm happy to take any questions and try and go into more detail depending on what people want to know about. Thank you.
So we'll take 2 questions on the floor. Gentlemen. Back behind with Eve. Can someone give the microphone, please? Thank you.
Thank you.
Can you just introduce who you are, what street and ward you're from, please?
I'm George Dryger. I live in Jubilee Avenue, and I'm a sort of actually a crossover resident between Heathfield and Whitton ward, so very keen and very interested in what's happening locally. Councillor Zero, thank you much for giving us a quick review. Just a couple of questions about parking. Whitton High Street, I think, as you said, is a fabulous place to go shopping in. I think it's one of the most natural, I think, least developed 1930 style of shopping centres actually in London. It's one, so we should be very proud of that. And obviously the support and engagement by the council in past years in various aspects of it has been great, including the putting in of the Yorkstone pavements, which there's another question about that which I want to ask. But about parking, I think one of the issues I'll be interested to see is what you're going to be doing about possibly shopkeepers parking their cars actually in the high street, preventing local residents or visitors going in and doing a quick shop and driving off. There was a system which I think you were putting out, which were local sensors in the road, which seems to have disappeared. I don't know what happened to that programme or that experiment. So I would like to ask the question what you want to do about parking in more detail. But also the other thing is about the high street generally. It's got this lovely Yorkstone paving which has been cleaned, but in parts. Now if you walk down Whitton High Street, there are areas which have been cleaned and areas which have not been cleaned. I just want to know why the cleaning was done in sort of segmented parts.
Thank you. So, can someone like to answer that question?
Well, I'll answer the first part and I'll allow one of my colleagues to come in on the second part regarding the paving slabs. The plans regarding the actual parking issues, if we think of, for those of us who live in Whitton, we see this all the time. There are multiple aspects to this overall issue. There's the point that there are many different parking restrictions. There are some parts of the high street where you can park for 30 minutes. There are some where you can park for an hour, and there's some where you can park for 2 hours. You also mentioned, I didn't hear your surname, is it George?
Right.
George Crichton?
Right.
Crichton, sorry, I beg your pardon. Yeah. Okay. But what I was going to say there, George Crichton, is that the issue around shop owners using the high street, I would like to think that isn't happening. I know I'm actually on the Whitton Business Association WhatsApp group, and it's a topic that we talk about quite a lot. One of the things that I did as soon as I found out that there was some concerns around that happening, was that I got in touch with the parking enforcement team, and you may well have seen that there are a lot more traffic attendants, traffic wardens patrolling Whitton High Street now in order to prevent any such case happening, around abuse of the car park, the car parking availability over there. We want to make sure that as much traffic, there's as much traffic flow through Whitton, yet at the same time people feel that it's a place that they can easily come to, do their shopping, and then also have a pleasant experience where we're helping the local high street. So we're working on that, and there are a number of different causes, and there are a number of different actions that we're working on. I think it would depend on which bits we can actually implement on a short-term basis, as in get implemented very quickly. And there are other aspects which we know will take a little bit longer to put through. But I would just like to end by saying, watch this space, as you will start seeing some improvements in due course.
Thank you.
If I can just, there's a couple of other points. One of the challenges that the businesses on the high street have had with regards to parking for them and their staff is that when the CPZ was introduced on the west, east, I've got this into direction, you know which side of the high street I'm referring to, that businesses were not allowed to apply for permits. And so I know that they have requested that when that CPZ is reviewed, that one of the things that will be under consideration is whether businesses can apply for permits to be able to park on those streets, and that will become even more important if the residents of Cyprus Avenue, who in particular are getting quite a bit of displacement parking since the CPZ on the other side came in, if those residents look to wanting to be included in that CPZ, it's then going to become even more difficult for businesses. Ultimately, they will have staff or owners or whatever who have to drive, and they need to be able to leave their car somewhere. So what's very important is we need to try and keep the parking spaces on the high street with a good turnover for customers, because that's the bread and butter for the businesses. But it's important that the businesses themselves have access to some sort of parking. And so when that CPZ is reviewed, that is definitely something that we're aware of and that we'll be discussing with officers. And then the other thing, just to emphasise as well, is parking is very important, but we're obviously very supportive and great advocates for active travel and other ways of getting to the high street. And so we're obviously delighted that we helped contribute to that 110 bus now coming down the high street. It's clearly proving extremely popular because it's always very busy, and that's, I think, opened up that high street to a lot of people and then who don't need to use their cars, and things like safety for cyclists in terms of cycling, but also being able to lock your bike and it to still be there when you go back. So there's lots of other elements as well where parking is important, but it's also it's vital that we look at active travel and public transport and other ways that people can get to the high street as well. So I think that's just the two things that I would add as well.
And I'll just add on the sensors that you brought up, George. This is a London-wide pilot scheme to see how they work. Obviously that's a pilot scheme has finished now, and we're all waiting to see, the whole of London is waiting to see just how effective It was. Sadly, because of the misinformation on social media, some of the sensors in Whitton were attacked and vandalised, simply because social media had put out claims which had nothing to do with what it was.
Thank you for that update, Edward.
We're just on the Yorkstone, the cleaning. A team was brought in from, they were actually Wandsworth staff who were brought in to clean. And to your point about why they missed bits out, I don't know why they missed bits out. It was reported. I think the thing which we need to get sorted is it needs to be regularly done. It was requested. I remember asking for it to be done. I think we just need to get it into a regular schedule of cleaning. So we'll take that away to make sure, and we'll try and get it into the notes of when it's going to be done, sort of each, however long, I don't know if it's quarterly or half yearly or whenever it's done, but we'll make sure that's told.
Thank you, Michael. Rajiv, is anyone online, or is there any more questions? Is there a question on the lady on the right with the poppy?
So sorry, my name's Deborah Sage.
What streets and what ward?
Montrose Avenue. So who would sign off the cleaning of the pavement?
It would be within our waste and recycling department. In the particular case when Michael was chasing it up, I believe it was the actual director of the environment department who put in place the cleaning, which is why Wandsworth staff came over and did it, because they had actually finished doing what they were doing in Wandsworth.
But you wouldn't sign off a job that was only half done.
No,
So
that's
how
why.
did that happen?
That's why we've got to check and find out what happened in that particular case.
Thank you. Any online now, Rajiv? No? Okay, so we're going to now go on to the next theme, which is speeding and rat running, including stage road, 20 miles per hour consultation. Would anyone like to take it up, please?
Yeah. Hi. Staines Road in particular has had several accidents in the past year or so. Something quite serious, with cars coming out of side roads being hit by cars going far too fast on the actual road. So there was a corridor study on the speeds on that road, and as a result of that, there's been a consultation bringing that into line with the rest of the borough and bringing it down to 20 miles an hour. The consultation was completed, and while there wasn't a lot of response in the consultation, there was a clear indication that the local residents wanted it to be brought into line with the rest of the borough. So that will be going ahead probably in the new year now, just to try and get that speeding under control. And one of the reasons you get the rat running, of course, is because the road gets blocked up with traffic jams in the surrounding roads. So that's something that we've been working on with the police, and as Laura said earlier, we've been trying to encourage more road watch schemes to actually monitor those speeds and find out and discourage people from rat running down these side roads in Courtwell Park Estate and Rivermead Estate. So anyone want to ask a question?
So any questions? Yes, gentleman in the front.
Brian Harron, I live in Rivermead Avenue. Brian Harron, I live in Rivermead Avenue. If you've been working to try and do something about the rat running in Rivermead Avenue, it hasn't worked because the situation has now become completely untenable. On Wednesday this week, it took me 25 minutes to get out of the estate because there was traffic backed up from Hospital Bridge Road all the way up Willow Way, byways, the full length of Rivermead Avenue and out onto Staines Road via Courtclose Avenue. Now, this can't go on. We shouldn't have to put this? What are you going to do about it? We've been complaining about the rat running on Rivermead Avenue for years and years and years, and we just keep getting stonewalled by the council. So, what are you going to do about it, and when?
Well, there are two parts to the rat running. One is the speeding element, and we were looking at that in terms of putting in traffic calming measures, such as slow the traffic down in the Midlands, but that isn't the main issue in the Midlands in particular. The particular issue is the quantity of traffic coming through.
Yeah.
And so, and that's a bigger question, and I know you've mentioned the Burton's Road traffic scheme as a potential solution, and perhaps that probably would be a potential solution, but as you probably know, it's quite a controversial solution, and that will need that. We have raised that, but it will need to go through committee and all the rest of it. It's not a quick solution.
So who do we have to talk to get it pushed forward?
Well, it goes to Transport Committee ultimately. But
As we keep going, we get as far as the Highways Department, and Lisa Fenn just stonewalls it every time, saying there's no money, there's no justification. But there is a justification.
well, if there is a justification, then we can certainly take it to the chair of the council and argue the case there, and that's something we can take from this meeting.
So it also in that section Staines Road there is a new consultation out again with a view to perhaps reducing speed of traffic to 20 miles an hour. But actually that section between Apex Corner and City would actually need some speed reducing measures, and so there is some work as part of that consultation, and I think it would be worthwhile and sort of getting some input from the residents and so on, just to just to highlight the rat running issues you've been facing, and therefore making sure that's considered and certainly not exacerbated, hopefully reduced as part of that consultation scheme. It is a growing problem. I mean, we're very pleased we've got representatives from our Safe and Neighbourhood team, and I know they've been doing, where they had the opportunity, they have been doing some local speed watch work.
No, they haven't.
Sorry?
They haven't. I spoke to Safe and Neighbourhoods team, they didn't know anything about it, and also I'm a member of Community Speed Watch, and I've never yet managed to get a slot until the beginning of December, when I could get them down to have a look. And what do you think reducing the speed limit on Staines Road is going to do to the speeding limit? They'll come off a road where they can be monitored into a side road, which has cars parked both sides, lots of crossovers, lots of obstructions, and
that's why I said.
Okay, I'm just going to just,
That's why I said
I think this could go on for quite a long time, and there's obviously a lot of issues that need to be resolved, and I think it's going to take a bit of time. So I'm just going to move on to, obviously the council have acknowledged your question and the problems that there are and the challenges that there are.
There's just one more thing.
Just very quickly, because we do need to move on.
Just the point about having a scheme like the Burton's Road scheme, it would need to be the support of the whole estate, and most of the estate isn't directly affected by that, because Beachway and the other end of Rivermead's Riverway, etc. So those, you'd have to get all of them on board, because they would also be affected by closing the road.
So we're not going to go to that amount of work if we're just going to get stonewalled by the council to say there's no money for it. It's not worth our while to do it.
Okay, thank you for your feedback and question. I think this could go on for some time. Is there any other questions regarding this subject or theme? Any online? Rajiv?
Slightly different question, but it's still relevant. So this is there a policy for ensuring electric bikes are returned to designated places How can we ensure they're not left in dangerous places?
And anyone else?
You're singing my tune here. You're talking about line bikes mainly. I have had a couple of meetings with line bikes. At the moment they operate a policy that says that if it's responsibly parked, they have a system whereby they go around and pick them up within a certain length of time. We all know that they are not responsibly parked. I have seen bikes parked in, I've actually even seen one upside down. And on the estate where I live, on the Woodlawn estate, there are quite a lot of them. So all I can say is that I am monitoring it very closely. Their response is that if you see a line bike badly parked, that there is a mechanism to report it on the website. I have pointed out to them that actually most people have got better things to do with their time than to go around reporting them all the time, but I just want to assure you that I am on the case. I also have been in contact with the school, or the schools in Whitton, because I'm sure you've also observed that Lyme apparently operate a strict over 18 policy to hire the bike, and the number of kids that I have seen go past me, because I live off Cavanagh Lane, on a daily basis is not good. I've also been told that there is a system with line bikes that if you do certain things to them, you can buy, you know probably all this, that you can get on them without hiring them properly and giving the necessary information and age verification, etc., which they told me that they were addressing. Whether they have or not, I'm not sure, but I will follow it up this, next week and see. But I agree with you totally, they leave them all over the place, they leave them in our parks, and it's not good.
So just on the flip side of that, Hounslow Council have introduced designated areas where they are left. So I think we are looking at kind of how that's working and if it's, you know, if it's having an impact. But there's been negative feedback about how they're being left in Hounslow. So the designated spaces doesn't always solve the problems. I think one of the issues that we would like Lyme particularly to address is the fact that bikes can be easily hacked, and actually if they could upgrade the bikes so that they weren't easily hacked, then it would make it slightly easier. I think they also need to be a bit more responsive in terms of actually pulling the bikes in, so when people report a bike and, you know, if it's been thrown in a crane or been left in the middle of the street, it's been tipped over, that they come and remove them as quickly as possible. I mean, I think some of us obviously try and move them if they've been dumped in the middle of the street somewhere, but it's, you know, it should be up to residents to do that. And yes, we're chasing one on them.
Okay, just very quickly, Gilbert.
Yeah, well, I was just going to say that Richmond Council, throughout the borough, we are trying to encourage active travel. But one of the issues, one of the challenges that we're finding is that you've got, if you try and encourage bay-to-bay parking, which is having designated bays all over, or, you know, on many streets, the kind of knock-on effect of that is that you reduce the number of parking spaces that are available for cars. So we're trying to find that balance between encouraging the right active travel, but at the same time not, you know, being unfair to those who are using cars.
Thank you. And again, I think Robert wants to very 30 seconds.
It is a very quick point. As Leslie pointed out, we have seen students of our two local high schools on these bikes. I know from Chilling House, if you happen to notice the number on the backpack of the child, you can contact Chilling House and tell them that number and they know what the student is, who the student is. So they'll be able to deal with the student directly, because as is the policy, they shouldn't be on that bike. So either they've hacked it, their parents have breached terms and conditions of it, or some other misdemeanours gone on.
Okay, thank you.
You're passing that basically then to the school.
Yeah.
I'm just saying that.
No, it would appear that the councillors all sitting there, I agree with Leslie, and in fact, down to this degree, but it would appear that you're passing it over to the touring school when it should be the council's responsibility. Whoever allows these bikes to be, I had 6 outside my house incidentally, whoever allows them to be dumped everywhere, buck must stop with you ultimately. Can't you rescind their licence or something? Who gave them permission to run these bikes?
Well,
You do encourage them, you encourage scooters. I followed one who was doing 30 miles an hour on the pavement.
I understand your concern, and I'm not.
We need a bit of action.
I am not passing the buck to children's school.
Okay,
I'm purely providing information to help you.
Okay,
in
so
the situation.
please let's be respectful to everyone. The council's here to answer your questions and to do their best. They may not have all the answers, but
could I have an answer to that question?
yes. If you want to maybe ask me that, because we do have a packed agenda, maybe you want to ask him after the meeting. Okay.
You're right. It's a London-wide scheme of which we are part of, and nobody is saying that we don't have a responsibility to make sure that the scheme is run in as a responsible way as possible. We really believe in trying to increase active travel. There's a million reasons for that. Health of residents, our poor quality of our air pollution, traffic on the roads, and so in principle, having a bike hire scheme is a good thing, but we've got to make sure that it is done in a way that is not detrimental to those that are, walking on our pavements and trying to come out in front. I live very close to Richmond College, and I regularly come out my front door to line bikes because the students are using them to get there, or to Harlequin's rugby games or whatever. So you're absolutely right. And I think I would hope that from Leslie's answer, you would pick up on the fact that we're not just dismissing residents' concerns. The scheme is not perfect yet, and there are things that need addressing, and you're absolutely right. And we are taking those things seriously, and Leslie in particular, and some other colleagues are working very hard to try and get us to keep the scheme, but to run it in a way that doesn't upset in the way that you have been upset. So please believe me when I say on behalf of all of us, we're absolutely taking on board what you say, and there are changes that need to be made, and we're working hard to make those changes. But it's important that we work with all partners. It's not because we think that other people should, taking the responsibility from us, but it's important that we work with other organisations like schools and colleges and rugby clubs and all of the places where people attending those organisations might be using these bikes, and we have to work with them to try and ensure that the bikes are used legally, properly, and parked in a way that doesn't cause problems. So we've absolutely taken on board what you said this evening, sir, so thank you.
Thank you very much for that complete answer. Can we now go on to our third subject?
One more about active transport, active cycling. If you want to get people, John Tavell from Belmont Road, if you want to have people cycling, you could do a bit more resurfacing of the roads in the borough. Is there an active programme for resurfacing the worst roads? From cycling from Twickenham to Richmond, that Richmond road is horrible. It's very dangerous as well, because cyclists avoiding potholes will veer into the path of traffic there.
So if you remember from my brief introduction of what was happening in Heathfield Ward, I actually gave you the roads in Heathfield that were resurfaced. So there is an annual programme that roads throughout the borough, in each ward, certain roads are being resurfaced.
It'd be really nice to know what they are in the whole borough.
Well, actually, it's on the website of the council. The information I gave out, I took off the website from the council before I came to this meeting. So each year, There will be a programme for 24-25, and that will be published after the Transport Committee has gone through that thing. So that's done all the time. The second thing about potholes, which I only learned quite recently, there is a form and a photograph. If you take a photograph of the pothole, and you can use computers, and I know not everyone can, what you actually can do is fill in the form and say where the pothole is, and the traffic engineers will go and inspect, and it will be filled in. Because we are using a new thermal system of doing potholes, which is much quicker than the old system, but it does rely on people informing the council. Unfortunately, years and years ago, we had people who used to go around and inspect on a regular basis, but over the years, in the efficiency the council makes, those people have long since left the council. So we do rely on residents telling us where the potholes are, and there is a system in place to fill in when we're told.
Sometimes it goes beyond potholes. So
Thank you. Rajiv.
You can't hear at home unless you're speaking in a microphone, so the microphone...
Yeah, so please put your microphone right to your mouth, because people at home who are online, please acknowledge them as well. Thank you. Yeah. I think it's not easy done. Okay, I think we are complete on that subject. Very comprehensively discussed, and thank you, councillors. We now go to subject 3, vehicle crossovers.
Yes. I think this has become quite an issue in West Twickenham, where early on in the administration we strengthened or increased the restriction on the guidelines for having a vehicle, having paid front yards, because for the very reasonable reason we want to prevent too many gardens being concreted over. What we found was that the new guidelines were a bit too onerous and were preventing people from, for quite reasonable reasons, having legal crossovers. More seriously, it encouraged an awful lot of people to go for simply ignore the legal means and simply pay their front gardens and drive over the pavement. So we instituted a review, and the review is in process, but it's almost, it will be going to the Transport Committee next week for hopefully approval. And the guidelines will be amended so that it's fairer to everyone, but also it requires people to make their front gardens more permeable surfaces so that to prevent flash flooding, and put some planting in them so that it actually improves the environment for all of us. So that's what we're doing at the moment, and hopefully it will come to fruition next week.
Okay, thank you. So open to the audience. 2 questions allowed, and then 1 online. Anyone would like to say anything? Online? Yeah. Rajiv?
Hi, there's a question from home from Paul Tanner. It says here, in the Twinning estate, some residents have made their own form of slopes so they can drive into their fronts, blocking the gutters, rainwater, being able to drain.
Yeah. Well, that's an example of the illegal vehicle crossovers that we're trying to discourage by giving these people the opportunity to do it legally and properly. Yes, I mean basically that shouldn't be happening. They shouldn't be doing that, and they are blocking gullies and making it worse for everybody. And apart from anything else, they don't. That bit of pavement is not owned by the people living in that house, and that's still public road. So they shouldn't be. By doing that, they sort of give the impression that that's theirs and no one should be part of it. So it's in two ways it's unfair on their neighbours.
I'm sorry, can I just say, can that person drop us an email and we'll be able to follow up? If you're still listening online, thank you.
Great, thank you. Anyone else on the subject on favour crossovers? Before we move on to the next subject. Councillors, do you have any more to say about favour crossovers at all? No? Okay, so we come to our fourth one in terms of main theme, that is waste, recycling and street cleanliness. Would any of the councillors like to talk about that? This is set the scene. Yeah. Rob?
Right, as we all know, fly tipping is an issue, especially on the alley behind the High Street. We are obviously ongoing attempts to keep this clean. I know I often end up reporting fly tipping when I'm on my delivery routes. So, you know, you get lots of reporting of fly tipping on the Elton Triangle and on the High Street because, you know, whenever my better half goes onto the High Street, she always brings me back casework. Anyway, it is an ongoing problem and it is a complicated one. I know we have received lots of comments about fly tipping on the alleys behind the businesses on Whitton High Street. There's the fun fact that 3/4 of those alleys are actually not owned by the council or private land, so our abilities to enforce are somewhat more limited. On the bit which is adopted highway, there is some problems, but I believe Cody has, talking to officers, got CCTV put in to cover those areas so that we can catch fly tippers. And we are talking to officers about ways of improving the situation in the library car park, because there is often fly tipping there. I usually make it a point of when I happen to be on the High Street to take a detour down to the library to double check to see if there's any problems there. What I usually do when I spot fly tipping is take a picture of it, as I mentioned, and I'm going to say tweet it because I'm not, because that's a lot easier to understand, to the council help Twitter feed, and that is often a very effective way of getting these matters sorted quickly. But there are other official ways of dealing with this if you don't happen to have want to engage with Twitter on your mobile.
Well, there is actually a wonderful new app actually available you can download if you have a mobile phone. It's a really good way of reporting things as you're going along. You can absolutely locate where you are, take a picture, upload it, and make sure you get a response back that it's being actioned. It's been trialled over the summer and is now live, and it's a really good method of very quickly capturing stuff. And certainly I reported some fly tipping in my street as I was off to a meeting on Wednesday. So it's a good way of almost updating.
Would you like to share?
Got a question?
Yeah.
So I think if you actually go to your app store and actually look up Richmond Council, you should find the apps available there.
Gentlemen at the back there, please keep your microphone to your mouth so people back online can also hear you. Thank you.
It's Simon Franklin, Nelson Road, Heathfield.
Thank you.
At the Hounslow end, benefiting from the scheme which Councillor
Can you put it a bit more closer to the mouse?
has recommended as referred to with the barrier there. Great benefit from that. I'm just wondering, you mentioned fly tipping, but one of the problems we have with garages around there, private garages, is does your fly tipping enforcement deal with private areas, or what do we do if we get in that situation when someone comes along and dumps some rubbish outside our garages?
Yes, in fact I noticed that some time ago when I was up in Nelson Gardens Is it the garages in Nelson Gardens that you back onto?
No, Nelson Road, by
Nelson Road.
Road.
So yes, you're there. The issue is that we are responsible for the pavement, and if it's on private land, the council doesn't have that responsibility. So we can pick up fly tipping if it's on the pavement, but if it's on the private bit, we can't. So our contractors will clear if it's on the pavement, but not anywhere else. So we only clear the publicly owned land. Unfortunately, we find that quite a bit of the fly tipping is being done by businesses. We take anyone to court we can find. What happens when we pick up fly tipping is it goes down to the council's depot, and there's a team of people there who go through it all, because some people leave their addresses on the stuff that gets fly tipped, and we then take them to court. And we do this on a regular basis in an effort to stop this criminal act happening.
Thank you. Any other questions? What question?
No, that's the answer.
Okay. Ziv?
There's another question from home. From Mickey D. During the no-mow period by the council, we saw an increase in fly tipping along grass verges. Can we have plants, bushes instead of the area going unkept?
Yes, it's an interesting question because what the policy that we're following is that over the course of a few years, the verges will turn into wildflower meadows. On the Hamworth Road where we did this, I actually counted a number of different plants that were beginning to develop in these strips, and it was something like there were 17 different varieties of plants beginning to develop. So over the course of a few years, we believe that the verges will turn from being what was long grass and look very unattractive. They will become wildlife meadows, but it will take 2 to 3 years for the wildflowers to get there. And I do know that people were concerned about litter in the verges. We did take this up with the team, and the fortnightly street cleaning should have been, in fact, clearing the verges of any rubbish.
We've got someone in a purple jumper. Someone who's not spoken before.
My wife found out you called it.
Is that your street name, where you live?
My name's Ian Hawkes, I live on Nelson Road. I'm just checking, thank you very much indeed for the tip for the Richmond app. I've just found it and downloaded it.
It's my Richmond, was it?
My Richmond, yes. I'm just looking on the street cleaning schedule for Nelson Road, Whitton, and it says Thursday fortnightly, the next clean being the 16th. I agree that the road sweeper cleans outside the shops, but he never ventures onto the other side of the road, let alone the verge that runs between the service road and the main road, which is a constant site of fly tipping and various rubbish deposits. I walked along there this afternoon and counted probably 10 to 15 Red Bull tins. So it's obviously I would suggest to somebody that parks their van or car there and empties through the door onto the grass verge. It has been reported before, and the last report took 3 weeks to clear.
Okay, what I would say is, first of all, obviously, there's the regular street cleaning, which is every 2 weeks. If, you can see on the website the date they should have been. If after that date it hasn't been done properly, please do let us know immediately and we will follow that up for you. That's without a doubt, certainly at the time that there's the date they're supposed to clear, we should at least see that whatever is there on that date, that should be cleared. Obviously, with it being a fortnightly turnaround, there will be stuff that will appear in between those two cleanings. So the first thing is they must clean properly in the first place, and if they don't, please let us know.
With respect, it's only on one side of the road.
Well, that's what I'm saying. So if they're not doing it properly, please let us know, and we will follow that up immediately, because it's very clear that when they do come, they must do it properly. The second point, though, is that there will be occasions where, like you say, somebody opens the door of their van or their car or whatever and just literally kind of, you know, does a particularly large amount of dumping of rubbish. Again, do report it on the website, as well as letting us know. And the reason I would say always report on the website, both in terms of when they've not done the regular cleaning properly, but also in terms of when there's a particular incident, is that the companies that the council contract to do this work, they obviously have service level agreements, and there are council officers whose job it is to monitor and make sure that those contracts are being delivered upon properly when we're tendering out. And so the data that they use to monitor whether the companies that we're giving these tenders to are doing it properly comes through those reports on the website. So always tell us what's going on so that we can take action, but please also do it on the website, because that data is vital for effectively when council officers sit down with Serco or Continental Landscapes or whoever it might be to talk about, you know, how have you done over the last 3 months. That's the data they use in order to judge whether that contract has been delivered effectively or not. So don't think it's a waste of time putting it on the website. It's actually really important data so that we can hold these companies to account.
Thank you. If I could start very quickly, I've made a note of what you mentioned there about only one side of the street getting cleaned and not the other part of Nelson Road. I'll look into that and make sure it's actually being done the way that it needs to be done. Point noted.
Okay, George Grider from Jubilee Avenue. I just want to carry on the comments from Councillor Coombs about the verges and turning them to sort of natural sort of flower meadows. I do fully support that idea, but as you quite rightly said, Councillor, that's going to take some time. And in that time period, before it becomes lovely flower meadows, those verges will look terrible, and they attract rubbish to be dumped. I live in Jubilee Avenue, as you know. It's a cul-de-sac. At the bottom of that cul-de-sac, we've got a green, which is actually always used as a dumping ground. It's a regular one. And I presume this happens in midnight or during the night. It doesn't happen during the day. We know some of the people who do it. But the point is, could we, for instance, get some extra sort of support with regards to checking when things are dumped, because things are left there for some time? What about the daily appearance of our parking wardens who appear down our road on a very regular basis? Couldn't they be used to report such incidences of dumping?
Thank you, George. That's an incredibly good idea. And I hate to say this, it is actually being looked into at the moment. At the moment, the contract for the ticketing of illegally parked cars is with a specific company, and the contract is written in a specific way. One of the things we're looking at is having a team that can do more than one bit of a contract, if you like, and so that when they're actually handing out tickets, if they see something else, they will take a photograph and do what I do and report it as dump stuff. It's how you write your contracts and making sure your contracts are giving you what you want. And I agree with you, George, it would be really wonderful if we could have that contract.
In Jubilee Avenue, we're very good
now
to do for them.
That bit of Jubilee Avenue, we do know is used as dumping, and if Leslie or I or Michael are there and we see any, we do take a photograph and report it, but I'd encourage you, George, to do the same thing.
Yeah, please, George. I had 2 mattresses removed from there quite recently, and they were removed quite quickly. It's that triangle all road.
Just one more.
Councillors, I do that. Actually, we do.
Thank you very much.
Just one last question in the front. John Evans, right at the beginning.
Yes, John Evans, Chair of the Whitton and Heathfield Police Liaison Group. On the subject of fly tipping, I've never seen the council publicise that residents should only dispose of their rubbish either through the weekly collections, take it to the dump, or it must be given to a licensed waste carrier. Now, many people don't know that it is illegal to hand rubbish to a non-licensed carrier. And if that carrier does not dispose of the rubbish correctly, and it's dumped, if the rubbish can be traced back to them, they will be charged. You must dispose of rubbish through a licensed waste carrier and get a receipt. You must get a receipt for that rubbish. So that if it is ever traced back to you, you can say, I'm in the clear. But it's never published.
Thank you, John.
Yeah. Agreed.
Okay. Indeed, anything further before we actually come on? Okay, one more question before we actually end this session.
Thank you. It's Simon Franklin again from Heathfield, Nelson Road. Where the railway bridge is coming over Nelson Road, going towards Hamworth Road, we notice regularly on the highway, the sweepers come round and sweep up the leaves. There are other situations, I'm sure, in the borough where you've got a lot of trees in these situations, and it doesn't seem as if the footway is actually mechanically or by hand swept. So the result is you get a lot of mulch in this time of year, which can easily freeze and makes it a very difficult pedestrian environment.
Yes, this is a regular problem, isn't it, that footbridge and the cleaning of it. We do keep reminding powers that be who run the contract to make sure that the street cleaners do the whole of the Nelson Road and don't leave that bridge out. But it is known as a place where we wish that to be cleaned on a particularly regular basis. And you are right, it is often missed.
Thank you, John. So now we've come to the end of this session. Thank you very much, everyone. I'd also like to acknowledge the people at home, actually, which I didn't do in the beginning. So thank you very much for all those who are at home and joined us online. I do hope you can hear us as well. We are asking people to keep their microphones very close to the mouth. But our appreciation for you coming on and spending some of your evening with us. Okay, so now we are on the open questions. So if you do have a question to the councillors, please raise your hand or acknowledge that you have a question. George.
Thank you, Chair. Electric charging points. Don't sign this. I am a proud owner of a new electric vehicle, which sadly is broken down. It's down in the garage, but that's another story. We won't go into that. I live in Jubilee Avenue, and I have got the ability to have a charging point in the house, so I'll put one in. 2 questions then on charging points. Number 1, what is the rollout of charges in Richmond Borough? I know that there's a first tranche going in to the Richmond side of Richmond Borough. It looks as if it's more in Richmond side than Twickenham side. Are we actually going to get any charges in Whitton Library car park, any fast charges? Are we going to get any charges in Whitton High Street? So I just want to know the programme of charges being implemented in the high streets on streets around Whitton. I think there was significant lack of progress last year on this. But also the second one was there was going to be a trial run of putting in gullies in pavements for those people who are not in a position to be able to have a car parked in their front drives because they haven't got one, so they have to then stretch cables across the pavement, which is illegal. So I just want to know what the progress on that is.
I'll deal with the second bit first, if I may, George, which is a trial is in fact happening in a ward which has got a lot of terraced housing because the gully situation, and 2 firms are actually doing a trial at the moment. On the rollout of electric charging points, the council did ask people to specify if they thought their street should have them, and wherever streets have actually said we would love to have electric charging points here in these streets, they are being rolled out in those streets. And in 1 or 2 parts of the borough, we are trialling having them in the lampposts. So that is being done as well to see how effective that is in take-up. It is the take-up. I will say that in Whitton and Heathfield, so in the 2 Whitton wards, the amount of people who came forward and said, our street is a street who would like to have electric charging points, it was actually quite low. And so those areas of the borough where residents were saying, can we have these please? The council is putting them in there. I can't speak actually about Whitton High Street as such because I don't know what the plans are on Whitton High Street and on the car park. I don't know whether my colleagues have any further information on that.
Yeah, I can confirm on that as well, that really what we're also trying to do is just make sure we get the balance right between demand and supply. There are certain parts of the borough where there are a lot more terraced houses, where the take-up on the trials is a lot more, whereas in this part of the borough, especially around sort of Whitton, many people have semi-detached houses and there's less demand. But on the topic of Whitton High Street itself, we were talking earlier on about the turnover of parking spaces on Whitton High Street. As things stand, I haven't come across any trials for Whitton High Street itself. And likewise, there isn't the appetite on, amongst Whitton High Street business owners to have parking there, charging there. Simply they'd like to have more turnover, but it's something that can be looked into if there is adequate demand.
Yeah, and I think I'll just add to that. So first of all, there's been 2 rollouts in. I can only talk about Whitton as well, obviously, because that's the information we get. There's been 2 rollouts. There's been, first of all, there was the rollout of the actual reserved bays with the actual charging. I don't think they're called charging machines, but I will call them charging machines. And there was quite a long consultation process for that where we were trying to identify sites. And at the time, we did actually feedback to the relevant council officers that we thought that there should be some in the car park around the back of Whitton High Street. It didn't happen on that rollout, but we would be definitely very supportive of that going in, and we certainly were the first round. And then there's been a further rollout. We've had actually just quite recently a lot of lamppost chargers put in. I have to say that pretty much all of the casework we've seen relating to them has been people complaining that they're going in rather than being happy that they're going in. We are seeing more resistance to it at the moment than encouragement. I just have to be honest on that. So if you are encouraging of it, then you need to start contacting us as much as the people who don't want them, because we're clearly potentially getting the wrong picture. And then the final thing I would say is just to reiterate what John said, is that in terms of officer time and finances in rolling them out, they are data-led. And so they're trying to identify effectively where are all the electric car owners and where do they live. And therefore it's really important that if you do have an electric car, or you're thinking of having an electric car, or you'd like to have more charging on your street or in your area, you know, register. There's a portal on the website that you can register these things with, and the more people that do that in Whitton, then it makes our job easier, and Heathfield and West Twickenham everywhere. It makes our jobs easier to persuade officers to put them where we want them in our wards, if we can demonstrate that there is support from that from residents.
Okay, sorry.
Yeah, no, I was just going to add to that, I'm going to ask if there's going to be a second rollout of asking people when they'd like to have them, because I did notice you've obviously read the same list that I have. In Heathfield, for instance, there aren't very many, and they did seem to me to be slightly out of the way. Did you get that?
Yeah, I think I totally agree with you, Leslie, I think, on that one. I think my view is the fact that we should be supporting the views of using electric cars as well as active travel. And I think that's what it's all about. And I think I would be actually slightly perversely against the lamppost rollout, because they're primarily low charge points. They're the 7 kilowatt ones, because of their very nature, they're the slow chargers. People want to be able to come into a place, charge up their cars quickly and go away. So you're looking at fast charging units. So
if I could just very briefly, just straight back on that point, the problem is that if a street has high parking stresses, it's very difficult through the consultation process to effectively take away on-street parking provision for everyone in order to reserve them specifically for electric vehicles. And so where the lampposts are going in, not the lampposts are going in, you know, where the chargers are going into the lampposts, the sort of sites where that is happening is where there is high parking stress on that road. And it's to try and make it a little bit fairer for all residents, whether you own electric or not. I take your point, and that it's faster to have the other ones, but there are other factors.
I understand that. That's why I'm thinking of maybe a communal one where we have car parking, such as Whitton Library car park. It would be more sensible for 2, maybe 3 fast chargers there, encouraging people to bring in, say, electric vehicles into Whitton and do their shopping here in actually our High Street.
Now we've just looked up, or Michael's just looked up, we already have 420 electric charging points in the borough, and over the course of this year, going forward, we're going to be installing 525 new electric chargers. So those are the actual figures for you, George. For an outer London borough, that's actually quite high.
I'm fully aware of those numbers. In fact, they actually didn't put any in the previous year. There was 0. So you're just doing a catch-up, which I do commend you doing the catch-up. But the point is, again, it's the quality of the catch-up and where it's going to be located. So hopefully, in some of those 524, which you mentioned, 2 or 3 of them may arrive as fast chargers in Whitton High Street, a car park.
You would have our support on that.
Thank you. Just out of interest, who here has an electric car? Anyone?
Who here has a hybrid?
Is anyone thinking of buying an electric car? I'll just ask the question. Okay, great.
That's the emails we're getting, George.
Can I say, there is a great section actually on electric vehicles on the council website. And just regard to the earlier query about flight tipping, there's an excellent section on flight tipping. And actually on that, it actually says very clearly about disposing of waste responsibly and makes a point about how people are responsible for doing it. So it is there on the website. I realise not everybody always goes to that, but it's most definitely there.
Does it actually say licensed waste carrier?
It does.
Okay. Any other questions for the councillors? Gentleman at the back there.
I don't really need the mic, do I?
You know, but that's what people online who can't, they need to hear you from the mic.
Perhaps they don't want to hear me either.
All voices that should be heard. So.
Personally, I'm a little disappointed that the leader of the council isn't here, because I always read his articles in the Croydon and Sutton Times that masquerades as the Barnes and Twickenham and Richmond, doesn't it? You know, I mean, that's a misnomer. Probably breaches the Trade Description Act, actually. But recently, he wrote an article about how to improve the high street, and he coupled it with hygiene apparently we're also poor that we can't afford to wash ourselves or our children. Now, having been born during the last war, I know it's hard to believe, yes, but that's a fact. Having been born during the last war, when times were a bit harder, and certain things such as some soaps, etc., weren't available, I don't remember loads of people going around stinking and whatever. But to come back to my point, I can cure it in two questions for him, yeah? One, Whitton High Street doesn't provide any toilet facilities now. The one at the library has been shut for more than a month. It's supposedly being refurbished. You actually refurbish the notice on the door saying that it's closed more often than you open the place. I'm given to understand that you can go from Leslie, that her husband uses Starbucks, was it Leslie? Yeah, £4 a go, so it puts a whole new slant on spend a penny, doesn't it? So why can't we have proper toilet facilities, not only in Whitton, but throughout the borough? We used to have, Victorians had it off to a T, didn't they? You had toilets in Sheen, you had toilets in, in Richmond itself, where there's now a flower store, which is obviously very handy. Whitton has got the one at the library there, but so that the councillors can have some comfort when they're there once a month. There is a toilet in the actual library. But whilst we were talking to the councillors a month ago, 2 or 3 people came in inquiring where the toilets were. So we could have toilets, and we could have toilets with washing facilities. So you've improved hygiene, and you've improved the facilities in the high street. It seems to be a forgotten thing. Fortunately, living where we do, and John lives in the same road, we know that there's a couple of bus shelters that the passing people.
I don't use a bus shelter.
So perhaps we could have a door on that.
Very quickly, before Leslie comes in, I would just say that the problem that we have with the public toilets in Whitton, which you've identified, is the problem that we have with public toilets throughout the United Kingdom, which is that they are vandalised, and the reason that the toilets are more often closed at the car park than open is the way that they are actually treated, which I don't often say words like this, but I feel very sorry for the continental landscapes who have to keep trying to clean these toilets. The way some people treat them are appalling.
We could have an attendant again, John, couldn't we? It used to years ago.
Yes, again, in the efficiencies that have happened over the years, that's something that has gone by the board, unfortunately. But, you know, we are looking at, in Richmond Town Centre, which you actually mentioned, we are looking at bringing back some public toilets there. But I'll hand it over to Leslie, who wanted to say something. Before we say that, we are relaunching the community toilet scheme with local traders, where there'll be a big symbol in the window, and local traders, we actually pay a sum of money over the year, and then people can go in and use their toilets in the shops without actually having to buy anything. So we are relaunching that scheme.
Doesn't help. I mean, on the riverside, we used to have toilets there in the days when we had a swimming pool.
Yes, we did.
A long time ago, wasn't it? That was going to be replaced.
No.
There was a notice there saying use the balmy arms. Try to get in there on a Sunday, especially if you're a woman. You know, it's not feasible. I mean, surely proper toilets are the thing, not farming everything out.
Well, you have to ask the question why there aren't toilets anymore in most London boroughs, most places in the United Kingdom, actually. You find that there aren't any public toilets. There is a reason for that, and the reason for that is, A, it is not a statutory requirement on the local authority to provide public toilet. That's the first thing. The second reason is they're incredibly difficult to keep to a standard that we would like them to be, because of the vandalism that happens there. And it is all about the tremendous amount of money it costs to keep them going, which is why the community toilet scheme that we are relaunching is one of the ways that we can provide the facilities that people deserve to have in a way that they should have. I'm very pleased that that scheme is being relaunched by us. So please keep your eye out for them. We're going to have new stickers and everything. Please keep your eye out for them because of that. And I do hope that the public toilets in Whitton are reopened as quickly as possible.
I'm not saying I'm going to keep it down.
John, I was just going to say that Councillor
I think John's
review.
I think John's covered most of it. I mean, the review of the community toilet schemes took place last year. We had quite a long process of reviewing the whole scheme right across the borough, and one of the things that's come up is that we put forward these recommendations which were approved at the Environment Committee relatively recently, and funding is being found to employ an officer specifically with a role to revamp the scheme, get it up and running, revamp the website because all the toilets are listed on the council's website, and an interactive map, and work out a route if you you're going somewhere, you want to find out exactly where the toilets are, you want to use if you're going across the borough. And it's not just toilets and shops, there are certain toilets in some of the libraries that are available. I know not all of them, but certainly a few of them there are available. In parks, we've got toilets in Nelly Gardens that are public and available for use. And then there are many other toilets listed on that site already, but the new officer has a specific remit of ensuring that new businesses are brought into the scheme, so there's toilets available right in all parts of the borough and not just concentrated in the big centres like Twickenham or Richmond. You need to have toilets in Whitton, in the corners of Whitton as well, Heathfield, as well as in Hampton. So it's getting that balance right, and the council is investing in that. It's an important function of the council, though it's not a statutory function. There is a public health role for public toilets. Some people are limited in how they can go out because they don't have access to toilets. So we do take it very seriously, and we are looking at that very, very closely.
Thank you. I think Councillor Calder wants to say a few words.
Well, all I'm going to say now is one of the disadvantages of going last is everything I wanted to say has been said by the other councillors. So I just wanted to say one thing. I know specifically for Whitton, we are working on the community toilet scheme. It's one of the things that I know I've spoken with a number of the restaurants on the high street itself. And as far as the Whitton Library car park toilets are concerned, I've had a number of discussions with Continental Landscapes over this. They're the ones who service the toilets, that no sooner are they brought back into working order, there are people that go in there and disrupt the normal usage of that toilet. So it's a constant challenge, but I think the way forward has to be to trial the community toilets initially, and until we've trialled that, we can't say that it won't work.
Hi there, Mark Hopkins. I live in Whitton. Just a point of interest. Well, there's lots and lots of functions and activities you can do at Whitton Community Centre, which I encourage you all to come to. One of the things we do offer is a community toilet. Gentlemen, ladies and disabled. So it's not a walk to the high street. If you're walking to the high street, you can pop in, have a dance, and use the loo at the same time.
Thank you, sir. A new question to the councillors rather than our conveniences?
Thank you. Am I allowed to go back onto the street?
Yeah, just
does the council
bring it to the mouse, please.
Does the council's street cleaning contractor have any obligation to clear leaf fall? Then why don't they do it?
They should be.
Well, they don't. If you go to any of the roads between here and the Rivermeads estate, you will encounter a slippery, slidey mess of rotten leaves, which I guarantee will still be there in March. They claim that they're going to leave it until all the leaf fall is finished, but they never actually clear it.
You've semi-answered it in one way, that we need a considerable amount of the leaves to fall off the tree to be able to sweep them all up, because what we do as an authority is we have a special team of people who are employed at leaf fall to go around, because obviously when being a very leafy borough, when the leaf fall happens, it is an enormous job to go around and clear it all up. So there is a special team that we employ to go and do that. The question is, when do they get employed? Because unfortunately, the leaf fall happens at different times each year. So this year it's considerably later than it has been in previous years, because if you look around, most of the trees have still got most of their leaves on. And I noticed this week the leaf falls become quite heavy. So the special team, the added team over and above the usual cleaning team, will be actually going out now and trying to get most of the leaf litter up. And it is the fortnightly street cleaning that is responsible.
Well, agreed. I take the point about not clearing leaves all the time, but they just leave them there. If you go down to Staines Road at any time during the winter, you will find piles of leaves in the gutters, which then block the drains and then create enormous puddles that you have to get a pump round to clear the drain. So that's costing you money to do extra work that they should have cleared in the first place. So they need to be got under control, because they're just not doing it.
Well, you know, all I can do is reiterate by saying that the council does have extra staff employed during the leaf fall season to go around and actually do it. If you've got examples, you've given us examples of streets where it isn't happening, and I'm sure we will be double checking this leaf fall that it does actually happen in those streets. Because you've actually mentioned them, so it'd be minuted what those streets you mentioned are.
Keep an eye on Fix My Street. I'll be posting pictures. And
please do.
Thank you very much. Any other questions? Do we have any more questions of any other nature?
Can I just, on that, on that point about Fix, I'm more than happy for people to use Fix My Street, because I realise why people use it, but could you also let councillors know, so that because we don't, the system doesn't interact as well as it should, Fix My Street, which is very frustrating because a lot of people use it. And the only way I get to see if anything's been reported on Fix My Street, I have to look on Fix My Street. I realise why people use it as a way of kind of flagging it, and that's absolutely right, and you should, and that's great. But if you can also copy us into any of those sort of emails or requests, it would be really, really helpful.
Thank you. Before we move on, is there any other further comments? Okay. Any other questions for the councillors? Anything online, Rajiv? Okay. Is there no further questions at all? Is there anything the council would like to say at all? No?
Well,
Thank you for coming.
Okay, so if I could ask you before we leave, just to fill in the questionnaires or the evaluations are very, very important for the council to know exactly what she's thought about the event, and it helps them organise the programme, future events based on your feedback. Thank you very much. Thank you. But before we go, I just want to just finish. I'm not finished quite yet.
Thank you.
And I'd just like to thank all of you for coming, and really also the councillors for spending the time and your time. It's been a really interesting evening. We've heard a lot of subjects about local issues. I do hope that your answers have been answered and you are being satisfied to a degree. I know sometimes it's not always possible to answer your questions 100%, but I hope there is something that you can actually take away and say, yes, that was a useful evening. And if there are any further issues, do contact your councillor directly. Thank you very much. And also for the people at home. Have a very nice evening.
Thank you, Chair.